Rich Eisen joining us on the show. Hey, Rich.
DP, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
I just arrived at work and just basking in the glow of the ESPN Mentor Program of 1996 and 97 when I came in, and that one time when KO couldn't do the show and Bob Stevens couldn't do the show, I got into the big show, and I tried to ball out. I tried to ball out. But what I definitely did was just bask in the glow of you sort of occasionally telling me how to conduct myself in the big show, and then frequently just letting me sink like a stone right to the bottom of the rundown.
Wow.
And I'm beginning to see a little bit of that right now in the backup and starting quarterback situations in the National Football League. And I figured I'd just call in and recount the memories and also say thank you, Dan. Also say thank you.
Well, sometimes tough love is good love.
Oh, yeah. I didn't just get it from you. I got it from Keith, too. I got in the interoffice mail, I got a letter from some viewer who couldn't watch me doing the late night show any longer and wrote Keith to help fix me. And he sent that to me in the interoffice mail with a note basically saying, don't take this personally, but there are some interesting ideas that this viewer has.
Oh, God.
That happened.
We were talking about backup quarterbacks and, does the starting quarterback help the backup quarterback and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers? And I said at ESPN, if somebody asked for help or suggestions, then I would offer it. But there were certain talents, Larry Beal, Stuart Scott, Kenny Mayne, they had their own way of doing things. So they weren't interested in asking for help, which was fine. So these guys wondered if I actually was a mentor.
Well, there were times whenever we asked, you would answer, and then were times when we didn't ask, and you would still give it in your own way. I think I've told this story before, but it's germane for me to tell again. I would get the tapes, just again to date how long ago this was, actual tapes from the downstairs control room brought up to the video decks that were in the newsroom for us to look at the tapes for the late night sports center that were being used, similar to the tapes that you were being used.
The highlights.
You were using, the highlights.
The highlights, yeah.
Are you telling? See, that's you right there. You're mentoring me on how to actually tell this story right now, Dan. You have it in you. You have it in you. It's in your DNA. It's who you are. But at any rate, so I'm sitting there, and I could feel this presence to my left, and I'd look up, and it was you standing above me and just saying, "So, you're nervous." And I'm just wondering if that happens many times with backup quarterbacks coming into the game. If Brock Osweiler ever got in the game, which we know he can't do, would Peyton just stand above him and say, "You're nervous"?
No. But Peyton would be in his helmet, in the headset.
That's
He'd be at the line of scrimmage, and Peyton would be going, "You nervous?"
And he'd probably wait until that 10-second cutoff. He'd wait till like second 13, just so that's the last thing that he'd hear. Yeah. But that's the mentor program that you were integral in, Dan, for sure.
Yeah. Well.
So, by the way, you mentioned you nailed those trivia questions in the previous segment, and then patted yourself on the back with Sports Jeopardy. But you should have answered it in the form of a question if that's what you were doing. You know what I'm saying?
That'd be too obvious.
Who is Eli Manning? Who is Joe Flacco?
I was lucky to get the answers, let alone...
You nailed it.
Yeah.
You did nail it. That was impressive on the spot. I can only hope to achieve that sort of knowledge and camaraderie with my listeners and viewers at the
I hope
top
that you're... Are you mentoring people at the NFL Network, Rich?
Always.
Okay.
Absolutely always.
Okay, because...
No doubt.
I don't know.
I learned from you, Dan. I learned how to do it. And I learned how to take credit for it, even though I don't have to. I've learned it all, Dan. Seriously, just being up close and personal with you after all these years.
All right.
Does this mean that I get to also call in Thursday, or does this count?
No. You can call in Thursday, but are you helping Andrew Siciliano? Seriously,
why would you choose him? Why would you choose him out of everybody?
He's a coworker of ours on DirecTV with the Red Zone.
Okay, I don't think he needs that. No, he's an old hand at this. He's a veteran.
I know, but hey,
he's a veteran.
I'm still trying to learn.
It's mostly former players who come in who need that sort of assistance.
Okay,
you know.
Where are you Thursday?
South Florida,
South Beach.
Bills-Dolphins. Bills-Dolphins, 5-4 versus 5-4. It's a big game, Dan.
All right. Who's coming up
Was
today?
that a good sell? Was that a good sell?
Not necessarily, but you'll be better Thursday.
Well, I'm amping up. I'm amping up to it. Let me try again. It's the 5-4 Dolphins against the 5-4 Bills. The winner goes to 6-4. The loser falls to 5-5, and it's all on NFL Network, America's most watched NFL network.
But if they tie, then they would both be 5-4-1, right?
Yes, they would be 5-4-1.
Okay.
I totally forgot. Let me get a pen. See, that's you again. There you go again.
Who's
Dan.
Who's on the Rich Eisen show today?
Who's on today? Antonio Cromartie is on today. Bob Saget is in studio as we're testing the 5-second delay.
Oh, boy.
Garrett Morris from Two Broke Girls, actually, from Saturday Night Live back in the day. We've got Matt Hasselbeck and Ben Garland, who I'm excited to talk to. He's the Denver Bronco, who is an Air Force graduate, who switched from defense to offense and followed his dream of being an Air Force member of the Air Force, and then followed his dream of being a member of the National Football League. He finally got into a game on Sunday, so it's a great Veterans Day story. It's coming up.
Well, thanks for calling in.
Hey, listen, and thank you just again for being you, Dan. You workshopped it, you spitballed it, and you honed. I think honed is the proper terminology for it. You're the perfect first string, perfect QB1 for somebody like me to come into Bristol back in '96 and learn how to do it.
Did Berman even know your name for the first 2 years you were there?
He did. Actually, he did. Okay. Come on now, don't go there.
I
can tell a great Berman story.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, quick, great Chris Berman story. First time I met him, okay, he's in the chair, the makeup chair for Baseball Tonight, okay, and I'm doing the Sports Center before it. This is a 7 o'clock half-hour Sunday Sports Center, if you remember those. So there are all those banners that ESPN hangs up at their events, but they would hang them in the hallways of the cubicles for charity, for on-air people to sign. And I'd only been there a week, and I thought to myself, at what point am I allowed to sign these? You know, I've done a few shows, but at what point am I allowed to now put my name next to, say, yours, Keith's, et cetera? And so I asked, who better to ask than Berman? And I introduced myself to him, and he goes, have you done a Sports Center yet? I'm like, yeah, I've done a few. He goes, F it, sign them all. And I cleaned that up for you. He couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah, but I remember him calling you Rick one time, but hey, that's
that's
just a small thing.
You know what? I don't recall that one.
That was last week. He said that Rick Eisen.
That was Rick Riley.
Rick Eisen Riley. All right, we'll watch you coming up at noon Eastern.
Noon Eastern,
9
noon
Pacific.
to 3, right after your show, Dan.
All right, that's Rich Eisen, part of the ESPN Mentor Program.